I don't know about you, but I did not have censorship by one of the most prestigious book awards on my bingo card for 2024. Yet, here we are. Let's get into it. Now, I don't know about you, but my feed has been blowing up with the news that Babel by F Kuang, as well as Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhao, were basically censored and made ineligible for winning at the HUGO Awards. Now, if you are unfamiliar with book awards and everything that's going on, I'm going to give you a bit of a breakdown of everything and everyone who's involved. Basically, the HUGO Awards is one of the most prestigious book awards in the book world, and it's mainly for science fiction and fantasy. And the Hugo Awards did take place in 2023, the end of 2023, and it took place in this city, in this country. Okay? Remember that because that's very, very important. So it took place last year, but it's only this week that a more extensive list of everything and votes and counts and numbers was released to the public. It is here that everyone is noticing a few discrepancies, okay? As in, a few books were inexplicably listed as ineligible for awards, including Babel. Okay, if you don't know about how the Hugo Awards works, there are only a few rules to be eligible for an award in the Hugo Awards. That is, one, you must have been published in the US because, it is a US award. Two, you must have been published the year preceding the Hugo Awards, which Babel was. And three, you must not have been previously published before this publication. Babel and Iron Widow, they fulfill all of those points. So they should be eligible. And they were. They actually were, because Babel, in the first round for Best Novel, which it was nominated for, it received the third most votes in the initial round. But then when we're looking at the list in the final round, for some reason, Babel became ineligible. Now, if you want to know a bit more about the history of the Hugo Awards and why people are calling and yelling censorship, let me go back just a bit more. Okay, so the Hugo Awards, as I said, is a prestigious award. It's been going on for quite some time. It's been won by some very, very heavy hitters and amazing writers like Neil Gaiman, and just amazing writers that we know of. And it's for science fiction and fantasy. Now, the Hugo Awards have been going on for decades, and the way that the Hugo voting process works is that attendees of Worldcon are the people who vote on the Hugo Awards, and the votes are administered by, an administration of the attendees from Worldcon. Now, Worldcon changes every year. It changes location, and obviously the committee who administers the vote changes every year as well. So, last year, Worldcon was hosted in the city, as I said, which is in this country. Let's really get into details here. So, F Kuang wrote Babel. Now, one thing I will say in full transparency, I have not read this book, but it is on my list. I'm going to read it. But F Kuang moved away. She migrated from that country when she was a very, very young girl. And her grandfather was part of the civil war fighting against the current regime. And the current regime of that country has a reputation for really censoring and silencing any person who speaks out against their regime and their beliefs. So do you see a bit of association here? But let's not stop there, because F Kuang's father also took part in the 1989 student protest. Now, if we want to say that, they have no association, they wouldn't look into her roots, let's go down even deeper. The actual book itself, Babel, that was up for nomination, though I have not read it, we have all heard the reviews or the summary about Babel. And a huge part about Babel is that it focuses on students who rise up against, a very unfair, really horrible regime. Do you see a bit of connection there? Now, if we even were to put this aside, and if we were to think of Iron Widow, so Xiran is very outspoken about things that, are on their mind. And besides that, they're also very outspoken about some very, very, very terrible things that are happening in this country. Think, genocide, and you might get to where you want to get to. And if you are still like, okay, this seems like the things are connecting, Xiran and F Kuang both were not notified, as in neither them nor their teams were notified of their sudden and inexplicable ineligibility. So we know who won in the categories that they were nominated for, but then everyone just thought, okay, someone who wrote an amazing book won. But then, no, that's not the full story, because now we're realizing that, part of the reason that they didn't win could have been associated to the fact that they were ineligible for the award in the first place. And now when we're looking at everything that's going on, it might be fair to think that maybe censorship was at play, because considering that the Worldcon was hosted in this country who has a reputation for censoring things that go against its government's beliefs and how its government is run, it's fair to believe that the administration or the committee who were administering the votes might have been made to follow a certain rule or follow certain rules when actually casting these votes. Now, when you think about that, how mad does it make you? Okay, first of all, I have read Iron Widow. It is one of my favorite books. This book is absolutely amazing. Basically a retelling of the first and I believe only female emperor in that country. And it is so amazing. If you are an anime fan like me and if you've watched Darling of the Franxx, yeah, you are going to love this, especially because the author themselves said that they wrote this book because they were so dissatisfied with the ending of Darling of the Franxx. And I remember when reading this book and I'm just like, so much Darling of the Franxx vibe. So I felt great because I recognize that pattern. But I am so upset because you see an amazing book like this that honestly, even if they didn't win, should have been eligible because one, they're amazing and they fulfilled all of the actual requirements to be eligible. And then you go to Babel. I'm not saying that the person who won didn't deserve to win, but then Babel, if this book was eligible for 2 other awards, I believe the Nebula and another award, which this book won, there is no reason why it shouldn't be eligible for another award. And looking at everything that we have said already, considering the history of the place that the awards were held, goodness, my brain, it wants to explode because science fiction and fantasy opens up our minds to things that we do not see possible in this world. And fantasy and science fiction is also one of the best mediums to really just explore and just express our beliefs, especially with everything that's going on. And then you censor that. An award that's for science fiction and fantasy basically destroyed what they stood on. And what I love is that F Kuang, she made this post. Pause to read. Everything she says in this is valid because it is so true. This has nothing to do with the book not being eligible or the book not following any rules to be eligible. This is more so that the book was undesirable, that the book spoke on subjects or took a stance that you found to be undesirable. And that is absolutely terrible because if that is the standard that you're holding an award to, then your award is nonsense. The entire process is moot. It's crap. And what is so insane about this is that they have the audacity to do this and to publish these details without any shame, without any fear of what was to come, without any fear of repercussion. Do you really think that we would sit back and watch the blatant censorship and say nothing? And the fact of the matter is, as this has been unraveling, this story has been unraveling, obviously people are tagging and people are just like, we need a reason. Give us a reason. What was the reason? What was the reason? And the award committee is, they're just staying quiet. They're not saying anything. They're just acting as if they just remain silent for a long time, that they can get away with this clear violation of order. And I am so upset because if it is allowed to stand, truly, I don't know what is to come. But if it is allowed to stand, I just say, you know what, Hugo, you've signed your death certificate as a really viable award. Because truly from that point, we must boycott the Hugos, because F Kuang and Xiran Jay Zhao's team have been reaching out to go and seek an explanation for why they were excluded, why they became ineligible for the award. You want to know what the committee is telling them? Zip, 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 zilch, nothing. Okay, so okay, you're just going to sit there and say nothing. I am incensed. I am livid, because how can you allow something like this to happen? Now, if the country that Worldcon was hosted in had these rules, then you should have made it clear, we can't host in your country. We cannot. That's just how it's going to be. If you are going to have these terrible, like, quite frankly, terrible rules, then quite frankly, you don't deserve to host. You don't deserve to host. And for those who might not even see, oh, it might not be, that much of a big deal. Babel already won so many awards. No. We are focused on the principle here. Babel has won awards, which Babel deserved. But it's the principle here. Do you not see how ridiculous it is that I am not even naming the country, because who knows how far this censorship is going to go? Do you not see how silly that is? Imagine I am not, actually putting up a map and you are really just left to guess, oh, what country is she referring to? That is how ridiculous making this point. And we simply know that censorship has a part to play, because apparently Xiran actually made a video of the whole situation on TikTok and it was removed. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I hope someone snatched that video up so I can find it, because they always make amazing points. But the fact that they got their video taken down for violating community guidelines, what community guidelines those would be, I do not know. But the fact that that video got taken down because we know that a certain country's name was, just vocalized loudly, is absolutely atrocious. How are you going to censor one of the freest forms of speech? And that is writing. That is fantasy, science fiction writing. One of the most amazing and fun and beautiful forms of speech and expression. It made me livid for that reason, and also for how they went about it, how their teams weren't notified, they weren't notified. Yes, the award took place last year, but if the extended list didn't get released this week, we would have never known that this was taking place. And I am baffled that they're really just staying silent and just waiting for the winds to pass. Now, I have said that booktok can be problematic. That is very, very true. But one thing that booktok has been showing its strength in is that it's standing on business when it comes to things that are not right. And something like this, booktok is going to stand on business. So if the HUGO Awards doesn't want to fade into obscurity in the next few years, I suggest that they get their act together. They need to sort it out. Now, obviously, we can't just take away the award from the awardees, because you really can't do anything now, because who knows if these books were going to win in the first place. We don't know that. But there needs to be accountability, there needs to be apology, there needs to be reprimand, there needs to be some type of repercussion, there needs to be some type of reparation. I do not know, but something needs to be done, because absolutely not, this cannot be allowed to stand. I cannot believe this is what they did. I cannot believe, especially, this is how we're starting 2024. Technically, it's how we're ending 2023, because the HUGO Awards took place in 2023. But we're starting out with a revelation of censorship and no acknowledgement of that censorship, no acknowledgement of wrongdoings. We're starting the year out quite strong, aren't we? Right? Oh, goodness, I was beginning to get so hopeful, because wow, January is almost over and we really haven't had like a book scandal. We've been discussing the book scandals that happened towards last year, with Kate Corain and Lauren M. Davis. We've discussed them this year, yes, but they didn't actually occur this year. They didn't start this year. I was so hopeful that we would end January with no scandal, to give us more hope, as we venture into, the chaotic book world. And I was disappointed, obviously. But you know what? it's been made known now. We know the crap that you are partaking in, and we are not going to stand for it, okay? So I want everyone to scream and shout. I want everyone to be tagging the bosses of the Hugo Awards, because we want accountability. We want correction. We want something to be done. The least they can do is respond, because like I said, it's going to be so hard to correct, because awards have been given, and we're not going to snatch away awards from people whose books were actually good as well. But the entire committee, scrap them, all of you must go. Like we said, just like with problematic authors, we not playing this. We not playing these games, and we about to stand 10 toes down on your necks. You about to get corrected. If you don't want a ride on your hands, get it together, because BookTok is already catching, the news, and we are already incensed. If this goes on quite further, I don't see the Hugo Awards doing well. And if it does continue to do well and without any accountability or without any response, one, I'll be shocked, but also I won't, because it seems that that's what we're doing nowadays. We're just doing wrong without any accountability and without any remorse, and we're going to keep on pushing. But goodness me, it will really just shift how, I guess, a lot of people interact with the Hugos, as in we don't want to hear it, or at least on this side, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear your names. We don't want to hear who won your awards. Honestly, it's an invalid award at this point until things get corrected. But goodness me, we're starting the year with a revelation of censorship, guys. How great is that? Yeah. I am usually so loud, even when it comes to ranting, but I have such a lack of energy for nonsense today. I am just so over it. I am just truly, I can't do it anymore. Like, I don't even want to see. Guys, I'm blind. I actually cannot see. But I'm truly over it. But you know what, guys? I'm recording today. I'm going to post this in a few days. And hopefully, by the time it actually does get posted, we get a response, and then I can do an update video. Do I think that's going to happen? Unfortunately, I don't. But, a girl can dream, and you guys can dream along with me. But yeah, we are going to keep a close eye on what's going on with the Hugos. And believe me when I say, I will be here. I will be here to let you know what's going on, because there's no way that you're doing that to our babes. To book that we love and are expected to love. How can you do this and, call yourself a reputable award? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But for now, we're gonna let it rest. We're gonna let it rest, and we're gonna let it simmer, and we're gonna let them come to their senses. But until next time, guys, yeah, we are not having this. But yeah, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date with whatever is going to happen with this chaotic situation. Better believe that. I'll see you guys next time. Be sure to like, comment, definitely share so that more people are aware. And if you haven't already, subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.